Welcome back. Last time we were talking about cultural relativism as one form of moral minimalism. And we said that, as you've seen, as you've read, cultural relativism is highly problematic. While, of course, I know that many of us subscribe to that initially, that what is right and wrong is a function of one's culture. I hope that the previous lecture and the previous discussion, especially if you've read the text, made you aware that cultural relativism is a very problematic theory, that one should not hold on to it, for reasons that we have just indicated yesterday, or in the previous lecture, that logically the argument fails in supporting the logic, the validity of the argument. And two, taking cultural relativism seriously yields a lot of consequences that are really problematic and should be unacceptable to us. Okay, so today we're going to proceed with the next, and this is subjectivism and the feelings. No? Okay, so let's begin. What is this moral minimalistic theory? So take a look at this. All of my friends are having intense political debates on Facebook, and I'm just over here debating with my 2-year-old about having cookies for supper. So obviously, this example is meant to, or meme, whatever you call this, is meant to illustrate a certain point. People have different opinions, but where morality is concerned, there are no facts and no one is right. People just feel differently, and that's the end of it. And this is the mantra of subjectivism. Wala talagang tama at mali. Walang katotohanan. Morality is simply what each of us feels is right and wrong, and we should not even begin to argue which among our varying perspectives are actually morally correct. Because what is morally correct is highly subjective, which means it depends on individual subjects, us. Okay? Now, take a look at this example. According to, and I quote, Reverend Jerry Falwell, a Baptist preacher, he said this: homosexuality is immoral. The so-called gay rights are not rights at all because immorality is not right. No? What can you say about this statement? Homosexuality is immoral. Using subjectivism, we are only saying that we have negative feelings toward an act. Now, if you were a subjectivist, you'd interpret the statement of Reverend Falwell as simply an expression of a negative feeling or emotion towards homosexuality. However, if you take a look at the statement, it seems as if Reverend Falwell was actually asserting a particular moral fact, that homosexuality is indeed immoral, that it has a property of immorality, that it's not simply an expression of feeling, but it is a fact. So according to the literature, there are two kinds of subjectivism. One is simple subjectivism, and it was the 18th century philosopher David Hume who said that such thing exists. According to him, simple subjectivism, or it's simply approval or disapproval, has to do with asserting feelings, and therefore moral statements should be rendered always true. An example would be X is right. And X is right, or X is immoral, just like the example that we have earlier, only means I approve of X. So when Reverend Falwell said homosexuality is immoral, according to the view of David Hume, he was only saying that he does not approve of homosexuality. The problem, of course, with this view is that it cannot account for our fallibility. Now, all our moral statements will be rendered acceptable or correct or morally correct. How then can we account for disagreements? Now, assuming that one person, say Reverend Falwell says homosexuality is immoral, and another person, say an activist, for LGBT, someone who staunchly believes that homosexuality is not immoral, faces Reverend Falwell. How do we then account for their disagreement? If we simply say that all statements of morality are merely approval or disapproval, ibig bang sabihin si Reverend Falwell disapproves of homosexuality, and here is another progressive, enlightened person saying it's not immoral. So wala ba sa kanilang tama dahil parehas lang silang nagpapahayag ng kanilang approval or disapproval? No, how do we account now for disagreements? Another version, this is relatively new, it's called Emotivism by Charles Stevenson. This one is a 19th century, 20th century philosopher. No? And according to Stevenson, moral statements are not for stating, but for conveying emotions and influencing behavior. So rather than agreeing with David Hume, that moral statements are simply agreement or disagreement, Stevenson goes a little further by saying, actually, hindi eh. When we utter a moral statement, we are only conveying emotions in the hopes of also making other people agree with our position. So if I say that killing is wrong, I'm not really saying that killing is in itself wrong, that it has the property of wrongness, but rather that I don't agree with killing and that I hope that everyone else who listens to me and who believes in me adopt the same position. Now, there is a difference between Shakespeare is the author of Hamlet and the statement "damn Hamlet." No, the one is a statement of fact, and the other one is obviously an exclamation. But Stevenson blurs the line between these two kinds of statements. He feels, no, not just he feels, but he thinks and he asserts that a statement, a moral statement in the form of a declarative sentence, such as Shakespeare is the author of Hamlet, and an exclamation, are one and the same in the case of moral judgments. That when we utter propositions involving morality, we are in effect making an exclamation. So are there moral facts for subjectivism? So a moral judgment must be supported by good reason. This is always our position since the beginning. And subjectivism seems to miss this point precisely. Emotions cannot replace reasons. And for subjectivism, emotions can replace reasons. I think we can all agree that emotions are not the very good indicators of moral correctness. And oftentimes our emotions, while they may certainly facilitate moral deliberation, but in themselves, emotions are problematic basis of our morality. Our values are nothing more than the expression of our subjective feelings. But as you will see and hopefully learn in the next few modules, there is a reason why we do not simply depend on values for our moral deliberation. A truth of ethics is a conclusion that is backed by reasons. The correct answer to a moral question is simply the answer that has the weight of reason on its side. This is something that we will all go back to as we go along and as we proceed with the different modules. But one helpful reminder, reason is our ultimate compass in making our moral decisions. So of course, we have this idea that science is our paradigm improving. When I say paradigm, it's like your big assumption, a set of assumptions, a set of theories, within which you subsume the way that you understand reality, for example. No? And we have always looked up to science as a paradigm in improving. No? And thinking of most difficult examples in ethics, no? When in fact science is replete with also complicated examples, should make us rethink, no? Kasi the problem with subjectivism, I think that's why it's very attractive, is because we have succumbed to the idea that ethics doesn't and cannot really guarantee uh, an absolute answer to our questions. And so the attraction towards anchoring our moral judgment on feelings, on subjective judgments, you might say, has been very, very strong. But I think what we want to make as a sturdy guide here in the study of ethics is this. While we have been confronting and will be confronted with difficult ethical issues in our lifetime, no, I think we have to be reminded that feelings can never be enough, no, and that reason should always be there to assist us in our subjective or individual decision making. I think the problem with subjectivism is it puts so much confidence in our individual feelings without the benefit of reason in making moral decisions. No, and in its defense, they always criticize ethics, no, and pit it against uh, science, no, as a paradigm improving, and they'd always show that ethics does not have the same character as science, so that we cannot be totally objective in ethics just like in science. And in replace of using reason, therefore, they'd say that okay lang, kanya-kanya na lang tayo ng tingin, no? And usually this tingin is, the word tingin, that's very apt, no? Because what they really meant was, let's just depend on our own sensibilities and our own senses and our own feelings. No? When in fact, feelings may always be complemented with and by reason. So always be reminded that there is a difference between proving an opinion to be correct and persuading someone to accept the proof. No, uh, we may not win people over, but I think the goal of ethics is not to make people believe and adopt the same position, but rather to be confident in our own decision making process, no? And well, and join others to also do the same. Okay, so I guess that's it for the second minimalist theory, you know. So I guess you can take a break first and absorb everything that you just heard and hopefully read, you know, and then go back to the module. Come back, you know, because I'll just be here and I will wait for you. You know, so come back for the next two. No, see you later.